What's the least amount of time I could spend stretching to maximise my results? Well, according to the University of South Australia, it kind of maxes out at 3 minutes per muscle group per session. But as long as you do 8 minutes per week, it doesn't really matter how you structure that. But you see, that only covers passive flexibility. Now, while that's great, and I do a lot of passive flexibility, I also do dynamic and I do active stretches too. But Joey, what does this all mean? Well, to answer the question of the 8 minutes and how do we spread that out, let's say you want to do 2 sessions a week. You just want to stretch after your leg days, right? We can do 4 minutes of stretching each session, right? That's 2 times 2-minute holds, or even like 4 sets of 1-minute holds. Now, to ramble on about dynamic stretching, it's mainly just a warm-up, so moving through movements, so dynamic. Now, while I wouldn't count it into the whole 8 minutes, because it wasn't covered in the study, but it's just going to help us feel opened up and add to our flexibility when we come to our passive ranges. But I usually wouldn't spend more than 5 minutes warming up for a session. And now finally onto our active flexibility, which basically just means your muscles are working during that stretch, making it active. For example, me just holding myself up in a split position. Now, the duration of an active stretch, if it's quite intense, I would spend about 10 to 15 seconds, or if it's a little bit more moderate, maybe 15 to 30. Now, I'd like to think, because I've ramped up the intensity from passive to active, I'd like to think it has a 2 times multiplier on it. So if I've spent 30 seconds active stretching, I'd like to think I'd spent a minute worth. Now, this may not be scientifically proven, but it's gotten me far enough. So now to try and piece this whole thing together, I'll give you another example. Let's say we're splitting everything up into 3 days a week, and let's say we're just going to do 3 minutes that session. I know that equals to 9 because 3 times 3 is 9, quick maths, but I might do a minute's worth of active stretching and then 2 minutes of passive. So if I'm going to do 2 intense 15-second holds, I'd like to think that would equate to a minute worth. And then I might break that up into 2-minute holds or just a 2-minute hold. Now, I went through intensity on our active stretches. Let's go through intensity on our passive stretches. Let's say you want to get a minute's total worth of passive stretching that session. If it's quite intense, you can always break it up into 15 seconds because the stretch wants to be intense. We don't just want to be sitting there comfortably. To feel a stretch, like to grow muscle, we would take it to an RPE 8. We'd take it the same thing with the stretch. We don't want to be sitting in an RPE like 3 stretch because that's just not going to do anything. Just like if you took an exercise to an RPE 3, you wouldn't get much out of it.